Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo and welcome to another HOBOTECH product review. Riddle me this, what has a 1700 watt hour battery with a 2000 watt inverter, a 25 amp DC output, can handle 700 watts of solar, and can charge in under 2 hours flat? The Maxoak BLUETTI AC200, of course. It's pretty big. HOBOTECH. That's right, it's finally here. I know a lot of you have been waiting and anticipating the AC200 for quite a long time. I can't tell you how many people asked me when I was gonna do the review. Well, BLUETTI wouldn't let me release it before July 1st. And today is July 1st, the official beginning of the Indiegogo campaign where you can actually get one of these. So what is inside? This has a 1700 watt hour LG brand lithium ion battery. Now it's the same battery technology that's used in the EB150, their 1500 watt hour BLUETTI, and it's rated for 2500 cycles. This is an automotive grade battery, pouch type cell with a higher life rating than your typical 18650 cells. Those usually only provide 500 cycles to 80%, where BLUETTI claims 2500, and I've actually found some research that says around 2000 is typical in the automotive industry for those type of cells. This is a gargantuan 16.5 by 15.2 by 11 inches at a hefty 57 pounds. You can use this to work out. Now the build quality is PVC. This is PVC on all 6 sides. It does have some nice rubberized handles and lots of rubber plugs. Beautiful display, which is class leading. Let's show that to you by powering it up. This is pretty cool. It feels like you're starting a high performance car because it's got this chrome button on there, and you push it, you hear a little vroom. And then the screen comes on saying BLUETTI initializing. It's obviously booting up a computer inside. This thing has a computer inside with all the information this is showing you. Just look at that display. That display is gorgeous. Now this is going to give you more information than most people will ever need in a lifetime. You can get into the real nitty-gritty details about every input and output on this thing, from the voltage to the wattage to the amps. It even has a BMS monitor. It shows you the voltage of the cells individually, which is nuts. The AC200 has an insane 2000 watt pure sine inverter. That is state of the art. It has 6 3-prong outlets that can handle up to 2500 watt load for up to 2 minutes. Now, of course, this has an MPPT solar controller in it. This wouldn't be worth its weight in manure if it didn't have an MPPT controller. Now, this has 5 ways to charge. Yes, at least that's what BLUETTI claims. Let's go over them. AC power, car or RV. Solar, gas or propane generator or diesel generator. An external battery. That's right, this can actually charge from an external battery. So if you have a lead acid battery, you can hook up clamps to it, which are optional. They didn't provide those clamps to me for my testing, so I didn't actually test the lead acid charging, but I did test 12 volt charging and it works, so I have no doubt it would actually charge from a lead acid battery. Now the claimed charge times for each, from AC power, 400 watts or so, 4.5 hours, that's pretty good. From car, 12 volt car, it's gonna take a long time, about 14 hours, but this is a huge battery. It's locked to 8.2 amps, so it won't blow the fuse in your car, so it will take a long time. Now, if you have a 24 volt system, you can charge it in half that time, or about 7 hours. This can handle a whopping 700 watts of solar, up to 150 volts. That means you have a pretty serious array of panels in series. You can charge this in as little as 3 to 3.5 hours with the maximum solar input of 700 watts. Now their claims to charge from a generator, those times are going to be exactly the same as charging from an AC outlet, because that's essentially all you're doing is plugging it into the AC of your generator. And for charging from a lead acid battery, it's about the same as charging it from a car, because again, you're getting it around 12.5 volts at 8.2 amps maximum. But I'm going to show you a trick later during my testing, how you can charge this in as little as 2 hours. Actually, a little less than 2 hours. That puts it way up there with the EcoFlow products that claim to have the fastest charging on the market. EcoFlow. As for 12 volt output types, you have the typical 12 volt cigarette lighter, of course. two 3 amp 5.5 millimeter ports, which is pretty nice if you have a CPAP or other device that has a little 5.5 millimeter plug. They're super common. But this is the first portable power station, aka solar generator, on this channel to ever have a 25 amp DC output. The side houses the 25 amp DC output. This is the male connector with the red dot. Push it in and push it all the way until it clicks. What does that mean? That means you can power DC devices into the 350 watt range, or even up to 400 watts. This will power virtually all your 12 volt needs in your DIY camper or van. USB output types, you have a single 60 watt USB-C power delivery port and 4 standard USB-A ports. These are not quick charge ports. I don't know why they didn't include quick charge. I certainly asked them to include quick charge. Do note that BLUETTI did ask me and a few other YouTubers what they should put into this, and I gave them plenty of suggestions, and they listened to all of them except for that quick charge port. So other outputs on this has 2 wireless charging pads on the top, and this can probably land an airplane. The top of this thing is so huge. They should have called this the aircraft carrier, the Nimitz. You could land your phones or other wireless devices up here and charge them at a maximum rate of apparently 15 watts. We're of course gonna test this. Other features, this is one of the coolest ever, and it is that you can charge from both AC and DC source at the same time. This is the first time I've ever seen this in a portable power station. On some of the giant models that you can barely move have this, but I haven't seen anything yet that's an all-in-one solution with handles on it that can actually do that. This one has the UL certification, which means it's not going to burn down your house or your RV or your cabin or catch fire on your boat. Now the warranty. As of this filming, I was unable to get a hold of my BLUETTI representative directly because he's in a different time zone. But the standard warranty on all BLUETTI items is 24 months. Now, I don't know if there's a stretch goal or not on the Indiegogo campaign that's going to extend this any further. Keep an eye on the Indiegogo campaign as it goes through its process, and we'll see what kind of neat awards that they have there that are going to be unlocked. So what comes in the box? Well, you get this crazy huge 500 watt power brick. It reminds me of the one I had with my Commodore 64 as a kid. It's about that same size. You also get, this is the main solar input connector. It's this special kind of connector here with a locking side. I haven't looked up what this is called, but this is SA20 series on it. This is an XT90 connector. Apparently this can handle 90 amps. So this is what you'd normally put your solar into. Now, obviously you're not gonna have a connector like that on your solar panels. So they provide you this XT90 to MC4 connector. So you connect your solar panels to there, put this into here, and then this goes into the BLUETTI. Then you get this cable. Now this is a male with the quick connect on it, locking mechanism. This goes to the 25 amp DC output, and that goes to a standard XT60 connector. Now, what if you don't have XT60? You want to use Anderson? Well, I recommend they put these adapters in. So you can actually use this XT60 there, then you have a nice Anderson output. What about charging from 12 volts from your car? They included that too. XT90 to cigarette lighter adapter. Now there is going to be a manual, but since this is a prototype demo model, there is no paper manual. It's all digital at this point. Let's quickly review the touch screen. Yes, everything you see here is a touch screen. We'll start with the power in the middle. You can see it gives you battery voltage, current state of charge, BMS state, and even shows you individual cell voltages, which is crazy. All these icons can be pressed. Let's go into PV car. This shows you if you're charging from solar or car, your voltages, current, power, energy efficiency. I don't know what carbon dioxide emissions is all about, but gives you all this information. And yes, there's some obvious misspellings here. I will help BLUETTI correct in the final version. Under DC loading, this splits down everything you'd ever want to know about all the DC loads. You have your 3 amp, your 10 amp, and your 25 amp, along with your wireless charging. Shows you the wattages and the amps for all of that information. Now, as for your charging adapter, shows you the input voltage, current, and power. Under AC load, this is for the inverter. Gives you the voltage, current, output power, frequency, and temperature. And yes, every module on here has its own temperature sensor. So the inverter, input, output, and all that all have different temperatures depending on what you're using. Let's go under settings. This is where you actually change things like your output voltage, your frequency. This is very important to remember here. This is your DC input source. So you would actually change between either PV or car depending on what your source is. So if you're charging from your car, you want to make sure it's in car mode. If you're charging from a solar panel, you put it in PV mode. This is where you turn eco mode on and off. This is a feature that'll power down the AC200 after 4 hours if you have a small load running. Other features, you can change the language, the buzzer setting, which is that beep, and here's where you set the date and time. Under datas, gives you product information, your inverter charger info, which you can see here, as well as extra settings, AC and DC outputs, basically takes you all the same screen. BMS maintenance and the fault history. This shows you all the times you made it trip, and you can see I've done plenty because I'm doing a lot of testing. Now under faults, this gives you the 6 pages of faults, of fault numbers more specifically. So when you actually trip a code, this is where you look it up. So you actually have 6 pages of error messages. So very descriptive in any kind of problems that you have, and this helps you with troubleshooting. And that's all the main features of the touchpad. So of course, the professor took this into his secret lab and did a plethora of torture tests. Now, I only had about 2 days to work with this, so I couldn't do everything I wanted to do, but I did do the majority of what I wanted to do. First, let's check out the capacity test. Now, I did this test 3 times. I did it twice for DC and once for AC. So I took the results of the best of the 2 DC tests, and I'll show you that. Results for the second discharge test of the AC200. 1, 2, 3, 4 watt hours, 100 amp hours, 12 hours, 33 minutes. As you can see, the results are pretty interesting. I only got 1,234 watts when I ran from the automotive 12 volt port using my tester. But I got a much higher 1,440 watts when I ran the power down from the inverter. Final results of the AC discharge test, we actually came up with 1.44 kilowatt hours, or 1,440 watt hours. That's out of a 1,700 watt hour battery. This is usually the opposite. Most power stations, if you run the power from the inverter, you get much less power from the battery than you do running it from 12 volt. So the reason for this is that the 12 volt system on this is very powerful, and therefore it requires a large background load to keep it cool, keep it regulated. In fact, BLUETTI has this chart that shows it'll use anywhere from 10 watts to 23 watts just to have the DC circuitry turned on. That's with no load at all. So if you plug a USB phone in here at 5 watts, it could use 15 watts or 27, 28 watts to charge your phone. Now, that's probably one of the things that we discovered during our testing that's not so great about the AC200. Now, I believe the final production model will be better than this. You have to remember this is a prototype model. There's only a couple of these in existence. This is made from 3D printed materials, and this is a sticker. The final product that you guys get may not even look like this. It may be different colors. They're probably going to change things between now and the time you get yours. So you can't expect everything in here to be perfect. One of the reasons they give these models to us is for us to beat them up and then give them recommendations. And sometimes they can make some changes last minute. Hopefully they'll be able to figure out how to use a little bit less power on this DC circuitry. This model is not really designed for a lot of USB loads. It's designed for high AC and DC loads, and that's most of the people that are going to buy this aren't going to charge their phone with it. They're going to run their campers, they're going to run large appliances with it. Now, unfortunately, I do have to send this one back because they're going to take it back and see all the fault codes and everything I've done to it. They're going to take my advice and other YouTubers' advice and make improvements so that you get a better product in the end. However, BLUETTI told me they're going to send me an updated model of this maybe in the next few weeks, even before the campaign ends, and I'll do some additional testing for you guys. So anyway, in our test, we were able to get 73% efficiency from the DC circuitry and 85% from the AC circuitry. Now, 85% from the AC inverter is actually really good. That means you can get 85% of the 1700 watt hours out of the AC plugs. You're only going to get 73% out of the DC plugs. But again, hopefully they're going to work on that circuitry before you get the final product. Now, DC output max rate. This has a lot of DC ports on it. I only tested the cigarette lighter output and the 25 amp output. I really had to pull out the big guns for this because I don't really have anything DC that needs 25 or more amps. So I found an interesting solution by digging out another product that I'm supposed to be doing a review on, and I plugged that into there, and let's see the results of that. This test was hard. This took me a while to figure out how am I going to get more than 25 amps DC. That's not the easiest load to draw in DC because most DC devices are only made for 10 or 15 amps. Well, I just happen to have this BOUGERV 1200 watt inverter that I've supposed to do a video review on about 6 months ago. Don't worry, BOUGERV, I'll get to it eventually. What I'm going to do is plug our power station killer or solar generator killer or whatever you want to call it. We should give this a nickname. What should I nickname this in the comments, seeing that it has destroyed 4 power stations so far in the last month? Let's give this a name. So down in the comments, tell me what we should call this, because I'm going to be using this from now on in a lot of my videos. Now, if you don't know what 25 amps means, that's over 300 watts. So we should be able to pull over 300 watts out of this port. Now this is DC power, not AC power. Now this is designed to run to your van or RV fuse box if you so desire to set this up this way. Pull at least 300 watts out of this. Now I did one quick test. I know it'll do at least 300, but we need to push it to the max and see how many amps can we get out of this 25 amp port. There we go. Pretty cool digital display for an inverter. Usually you don't get a wattage output on a plain old inverter. That's why I wanted to review this, because it looked pretty interesting. So we can actually look at the watts here and the watts here. Now, obviously, the watts here are going to be higher than here because there's lots of loss in between. When you're converting from DC to AC, you're going to experience some significant loss. Now, we always start with no heat. 105, 116. That sounds about right. So let's apply some heat. All right, we're at 25.1 amps, around 340, 350-ish watts. So this is the rated output for this port. Let's give it a little bit more juice. Let's see what we can do. Okay, we're at 28. Oh, okay, we hit 28 amps, and we got the shutdown. We clear the fault, take it back up to 25 amps again, 350 watts. Down here it says 254. So that shows you there's actually a 100 watt loss between converting from DC to AC. 27 amps, 27 and a half, 27.8, 28. Okay, I think we figured out where this thing's gonna shut off. As you can see, you can power up to 27 amps on this 12 volt port, even though it's only rated for 25 amps. And we're able to pull 10.5 amps from the 10 amp port. So again, over specifications. Thumbs up there, BLUETTI. Now, BLUETTI, along with JACKERY, are known for their regulated outputs. This one is regulated at 13.4 volts. So no matter how full or how empty the battery is, you always get 13.4 volts out of all of the DC circuitry. It's not just a cigarette lighter port. It's all the DC ports here give you that 13.4 regulated voltage. So you can plug in refrigerators, CPAP machines. All right, we're under 800 watts of load, and the sine wave is untouched. As you can see, the sine wave is perfectly fine at a rock solid 120 volts, 60 hertz. Now the inverter capacity test. This was also a challenge. You know, I have to say for the record, this is one of the most ridiculous inverter tests I've ever done. Heat gun, 400 watt charger, 2 500 watt power stations. I'm trying to overload this sucker and it's making it easy. Good job, BLUETTI. So looky what we have here. We have 2 of the EcoFlow R600s. I still have the charger plugged in and we're gonna add the heat gun to it. This is gonna shut down. There's no way it can take all this. It's now charging both of these. Okay, currently on the screen we have 1300 watts and climbing. Let's go ahead and add the heat gun. See what happens. 21, we should be getting the beep any second. There we go. 22. 23. All right, at 2300 watts, it finally shut off the inverter. But it makes me wonder, how long can we run it? Let's try her. Okay, 2206. Let's leave it right there to 2220. Let's see if we get 3 minutes or 5 minutes out of this sucker. So we're pushing 19 amps at 120 volts. Okay, we're at 48 degrees centigrade, coming up on 3 minutes. And there we go. I kind of figured that's where we were going here. We were able to pull 2200 watts for 3 minutes, and that's above the specifications where it says you should only be able to do that for 2 minutes. So can you charge it while you're using it? In other words, it's called pass-through charging. Not only does this support pass-through charging, but it supports simultaneous AC and DC charging. Again, this is a first for this channel. What do I mean? Let's take a look. Now for this next test, I had to buy this brand new 1000 watt power supply to show you guys one of the coolest features on the AC200, and that's simultaneous AC and DC charging. Okay, if you can see that, input voltage 58 volts, 7.3 amps, 423 watts. So that's what it is taking in right now from the wall charger. But we're now about to put the EcoFlow R600 to shame with what you're about to see. Let's go ahead and turn on the Jackery AC output. It's going to power our power supply. Watch the screen. So it's holding steady at 652. Here comes the AC charger at 330. So we're pulling 1000 watts in right now. So you can plug the AC power cord into this and charge around 400, 450 watts while simultaneously pumping 700 watts into the DC port. Now it can handle up to 700 watts of solar from 35 to 150 volts. That's extremely impressive. Now in our lab test, we were able to hit 120 volts, 643 watts. I wasn't really able to perform a real world test because again, I didn't have enough time with this to dig out every solar panel I own to reach 150 volts. And it's been crazy windy the last week. I really haven't been able to do too much outside. Fortunately, right now, the wind decided to calm down, but as you can see, the sun's down. So no solar testing today with this, but we're able to perform some testing in the lab. All right, I spent the last half hour or so giving the AC200 a good old-fashioned rogering. What I mean by that is I've been beating the crap out of it with my charger. I set up this. I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. I have the Jackery Explorer 1000 providing the power to my new power supply. That's coming out into this Drock voltage booster. So I can take the 48 volts come out of this and make up the 120. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, this isn't gonna work right because I've been trying to get this to work right. And the AC200 takes 150 volts of solar. This can only do 120. So we can at least prove to you in the lab it can handle at least 120. Now for 150, I'm gonna have to think of another test. Maybe I'll have to go outside and put all my BOUGERV panels in series. And maybe with all my Renogy panels, all my BOUGERV panels, I might get 150 volts. So we'll have to try that. I'm gonna use this and we're gonna do some voltage and amp testing. Now this can handle 12 amps, which is a little bit more than a normal power station can. This can do, I think, 500 or 600 watts. So I think what's happening is I'm running into the limit of this. 120 volts, it's now doing 120 volts at 12 amps. I'm glad I'm wearing these gloves. 120 volts. So no problem right there, right off the bat, it takes 120 volts. Now you're gonna see as the BLUETTI's MPPT kicks in, it's gonna wreak havoc on this voltage booster. It's gonna drop the voltage and some weird things are gonna happen, but let's just check it out anyway. So the wattage is the third number down. The voltage booster is trying really hard to keep the voltage high, but the BLUETTI is just taking everything it can give it. USB output rate check. Okay, to 20 volts at 3¼ amps, we're pulling 72 watts. Now, basically that's it. So there's the result. It pulls a strong 70+ watts from the 60-watt power delivery port. So you'll never have any problems with power delivery port supplying enough power for your needs. Now, two common questions I get about these larger power stations: can they be paralleled together for more power? And are the batteries user changeable? Now, you can't parallel these together for more power. In fact, this doesn't really even have a UPS feature. Yeah, you can keep it plugged in and run the inverter to power your devices indefinitely, but the AC power coming in doesn't transfer automatically through the inverter. It doesn't have like a pass-through system like some other power stations. The battery is also not modular or user replaceable. You have to remember this BLUETTI is designed for the all-in-one user, and they designed this to keep costs at a minimum. Now, when you start adding UPSs and parallel features and modular batteries, it dramatically increases the cost. If you want an example of that, go look at EcoFlow. Now, here's the final test that I performed. It's going to show you exactly how impressive the AC200 is. So what can the AC200 power? Everything. Everything at your campsite. Now, that might be a slight exaggeration, but I'm going to prove to you this thing is really powerful. And how am I going to do so? I'm going to power both of our RVs at the same time on this little box. This is an extension cord coming from the house. It's powering both of our RVs right now. So this is coming into like a little splitter. One cord's going to Heidi's RV, other one's going to my RV, and the third one is going to two 12-volt refrigerators. So what I'm gonna do, and the air conditioners are running right now, refrigerators are running right now. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this, plug it into the BLUETTI and see what happens. Ha. So while we're waiting for both air conditioners to kick back on, what is this powering right now? It's powering my RV and her RV, 3 refrigerators, 2 air conditioners, 2 battery chargers, all at the same time. It should be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 watts. That's generally what we pull. So once my air conditioner compressor kicks back on, we'll take a look and see what the final wattage here is on the AC200. So there you have it. It's running just over 1,400 watts to power 2 RVs, 2 air conditioners, and 5 refrigerators. So what do I like about the AC200? Everything. Well, what's really not to like? From the design, to the touch screen, to the 700 watts of solar charging, to the simultaneous AC and DC quick charging ability, to the amazing 2,000 watt inverter, to the outstanding 25 amp 12 volt output. This thing is simply boom. Now, what don't I like about the AC200? Well, I really don't know how to slip through the cracks, but there are no quick charge ports at all. You have that single 60 watt power delivery USB-C port, and then 4 dinosaur-like USB-A ports. Now, you do have that single power delivery port, which is going to be able to power just about anything out there. But if you want to charge multiple devices at the same time that require quick charging, like my phone requires quick charging, now this will charge a lot slower because it doesn't have a quick charge port. It'll still charge, it'll just do it a lot slower. And of course, a lot of devices actually come with their own AC wall charger, so you can always plug that AC wall charger over here into the inverter and charge your devices that way. Just be aware you're going to be wasting a lot of power like that. Now, this is not a deal breaker by any means, but it is a shortcoming of this device. I did recommend that they put quick charge ports on here whenever they were asking me about development many months ago, and so I don't know how this fell through the cracks and these weren't implemented. Another concern for some of you may be the size and weight of this thing. The AC200 is pretty heavy. It may be too heavy for some. It's around 60 pounds, especially if you include that giant power brick. But if you can pick up a bag of dog food, you should be able to toss this around pretty easily. It does have these really good handles on both sides, making it much easier than other large power stations to move around. And my final gripe is the huge overhead for the DC circuitry. Now, I wish they would have implemented USB and DC separately. In other words, they should have a separate switch to turn on and off USB and a separate switch to turn off the DC portion of these big outlets over here, because most of the overhead is going to be in the big DC outlets, not in the USB ports. So if you could actually turn those on separately, it would make them far more efficient. So the large overhead on this makes it pretty inefficient to power small DC loads or even USB devices. If you just want to charge your phone at 10 watts, there's that 10 watt to 23 watt overhead on top of that. And that's the power DC circuitry you're not even using. It's just sitting there in standby. Now, I don't know if this is something that's going to be fixed later down the line before you guys see this in your own hands. Now, it's obvious that this is not focused towards people who want to do USB charging. I understand that. This is focused towards people who want to have a large DC output for their homemade camper or DIY trailer or RV or van and be able to power huge AC loads. You want to run that induction cooker. You want to run that air conditioner. You want to run that blender, you want to run that Keurig machine. You can do all that on this inverter, which is pretty unique. Now, I'm going to suggest if you have a lot of USB devices that you do want to charge up, just get a smaller power station. Get something smaller that has all the ports on it that you need, then use this to charge that with the AC power on this. So just turn on the inverter, plug in your little power station, and boom, best of both worlds. All right, now it's time for the nitty-gritty. You all want to know how much this cost. Well, you're not going to believe it, because I didn't believe it, and I still don't believe it. Now, this video is going to post on July 1st, sometime in the early morning. At 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, this is going to be available on Indiegogo. Yes, this is a crowd-funded product. You can't just buy this outright yet. You have to join the crowdfunding platform Indiegogo. The link to get this is going to appear below in the description. So at 7 a.m. or slightly a few minutes after 7 a.m., look at the description below in this video for the link to the Indiegogo campaign. That'll take you directly to the campaign site where you can buy this through that link for $9.99. Yeah, I didn't say $19.99, I said $9.99. Now, that's a super early bird special that's only going to be available to the first 250 people that can get in there and put their pledge for $9.99. After that, you're still going to be able to get it, but the price is going to go up. Now, the fact that BLUETTI is actually selling this at cost to the first 250 people that pledge is pure insanity. And I even told them that. So I suggest if you want one of these, you better get in there the minute you watch this video, because I suspect these are going to sell out on the early bird special within a couple of hours. I'm going to guess between 9 and 10 a.m. Pacific time, you won't be able to get this for $9.99 anymore. There are thousands and thousands of people who are waiting for this to come out. Only 250 of them get this at $9.99. If you come into this video late and you complain that you couldn't get one for $9.99, it's not my fault. See? Because I'm putting this video out before the campaign launches. Next time, subscribe, and you'll know when something cool like this happens. So what's the main competition for the AC200? There is none. The AC200 smokes everything out there at this price point. Sure, the Titan can power a little bit more, it's modular, but it's also very long in the tooth. The battery isn't much different size than this, and they want almost twice as much money for it. And good luck trying to get one. Older power stations like the Titan just don't have the feature set that this does. And yes, there is the Monster X and the Energy Flex and all these essential other vaporware products that may be coming out in the next 6 months, probably going to change completely before they do. They might be big failures, you don't know. Nobody can test them, they're not out yet, they're vaporware. But you can have one of these in your hands in the next couple of months before those guys are even campaigning. I always say, only buy something that has been tested by a reputable source before you go plop down thousands of dollars on something. I certainly wouldn't buy this unless I had my hands on one or could at least see some reviews before it launched. Well, I'm getting this out right before it launches. Hopefully it'll let you make an informed decision. And my personal dealings with BLUETTI as a company has been fantastic. I have full faith in them. If you saw all the testing reports they've been sending me lately, showing this thing running multiple air conditioners at the same time, it was covered in water. Somehow they were running some sump pump and it was splashing water all over and it was still working. There have been discussions over on my Facebook group, the HOBOTECH crew, about BLUETTIs, and there have been a few issues here and there, but it seems like they always get resolved, and almost everybody there is happy with their BLUETTI. And the fact that they approach YouTubers like me and actually ask for our recommendations and then follow through with them speaks volumes to me. And if you're looking for recommendations on solar panels, go to hobotech.tv/Amazon under solar kits. The BOUGERV 170 watt rigid glass panels work fabulous for these. You can also get 100 watt flex panels and chain them in series. Those will work great. And you can get the 100 watt portable panels and also hook those in series, and those work great. So all my recommendations are there on my website. Don't forget to look below for that link to the Indiegogo campaign and click on that to get in on the early bird deal starting July 1st, 2020, 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time. That's what he said.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
The Max Oak BLUETTI AC200, of course. It's pretty big. That'll be funny. Literally right under the flight line. Like that airplane pooped, it pooped right on me.
RV Golf Guy, Z Foxfire.